gasoline and diesel fuel shortages, why has the price of fuel in Russia crashed?
So Mr. Global seems to think that there is no gasoline shortage in Russia. And he takes issues with my analysis. And he starts by talking about by asking the question, very reasonable and legitimate question, if there are shortages, why has the price cratered, to use his word? And he shows you this chart. And looking at this chart, it certainly does appear that the price of fuel in Russia has, to use his word, cratered. The use of a chart like this, cherry picking a selection of historical data, is a favorite tool of Kremlin propagandists. And I'm not suggesting that Mr. Global is a Kremlin propagandist, just that he's using one of their favorite tools, called deceptive imagery persuasion. You cherry pick a subset of the chart and you show it to prove your point, even though if we look at a larger data set, we can see that, in fact, inside the Russian Federation, the price of gasoline at the pump generally stays about the same. And the reason for that is because it's subsidized. It's not a free market economy. It's the Russian economy. Roscom is the largest single producer of refined oil and gas products in Russia, and they're state-owned. Now, what you do see is those large spikes there. Those large spikes happened right after the invasion, as everyone was affected, as oil rose to extraordinary heights, hitting $100 a barrel, over $100 a barrel, for the first time, curiously enough, since 2014, when Russia last invaded Ukraine. War makes for uncertainty in the marketplace, and it drives up the price of commodities. Now, I show this chart not to support my point that there is, in fact, a very real gas shortage inside of Russia, because that's just a fact. And I didn't mention gas prices in my video at all, because I understand how the market is manipulated by a government influence in Russia. So why do I show it? I show it to demonstrate that there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. And somebody who would show you only half the story, well, you can decide for yourself whether or not that's a person to be trusted. Now let's look at the next thing he says. He says that this is all part of some grand plan of Vladimir Putin's to discredit Joe Biden's plan to take down gas prices, right? And he showed you this article from Reuters, updated 8 days ago, September 15th, in which the administration makes an announcement that they're talking to oil refiners and they're going to come up with a plan to lower gas prices. Okay, great. Now, here's the problem with Mr. Global's analysis that the Biden plan, or that rather Russia's master plan to screw the United States over, is in response to Joe Biden's plan. Because this plan to stop oil exports out of Russia was first reported on September 6th. That's 9 days before the Biden plan was announced. So there's no possibility that this plan of the Russians is a response to the Biden plan. Has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it at all. And what you see here is a report from the Agriculture Minister, Dmitry Patrushev, who said that diesel shortages inside of Russia are threatening the harvest. Farmers are ready to protest. Farmers were threatening to protest, block roads into Moscow if something wasn't done to get diesel to them so that they could bring the harvest in on time. And now Russia's doing it. And this plan to stop oil exports was announced 9 days before the Biden plan. There's no relationship. But what it does, for every complex problem in the world, there is a solution that is simple, easy, and wrong. And Mr. Global's analysis flies in the face of all the facts. It's really just that simple. This doesn't have anything to do with us. This has to do with what's happening inside Russia. 60% of the Russian economy is oil and gas products. Now, if you take a look at this chart here, you see that kind of mauve area underneath the yellowish area? That's the volume of Russian exports of refined oil products, so gasoline, diesel, kerosene, etc. And before this war began, Russia was exporting about 130 million euros a day in refined products. Look at that section today. It's down to about 80 million. Less than $100 million. That's a huge hit. Huge. That's 35%. And that's just the export market. Then you think about the demands of an operation like the invasion of Ukraine on the diesel, the need for diesel inside of Russia. Combine that with repeated strikes on oil depots. We saw 1.6 million liters of diesel just burn at the Sochi airport the other day. That all adds up to a crisis inside the country that has been widely reported. This is from August 22nd, a full month ago. This is an interview with a woman in Crimea who says that the ATP said that diesel will be brought in 5 hours. She's going to have to wait 5 hours to get diesel. And it will cost 85 rubles a liter. It's about $3.65 a gallon. This is in Crimea. The continued isolation of Crimea, the pipeline over the Kerch Bridge, which is not functioning, the fact that diesel trucks and fuel trucks and train cars with fuel can't get into Crimea is causing all of these problems. Not to mention, of course, that the Ukrainians keep hitting military fuel depots everywhere that they can. Combine that with the fact that Russia joined OPEC's oil, as a member of OPEC Plus, joined OPEC's targets to reduce production in order to drive up prices back in November 2022, cut its own production in February of 2023 by 500,000 barrels a day, 500,000 barrels a day, voluntary stoppage, and signed up back in, I think it was April, to the OPEC Plus announcement of another 1.66 million barrel a day cut, all intended to drive up the price of oil internationally and refined products so that they could charge as much as they could for their refined products. And they've been selling it on the open market to get it out there, only not to Europe, as Mr. Global intimates, because since sanctions, it's not really Europe that's buying all that Russian diesel, it's Turkey and Brazil. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on this, guys.